There is a kind of person you have probably encountered at least once in your life. Someone who never raises their voice, never scrambles to defend themselves, never seems rattled by the noise around them, and yet every person in the room keeps drifting their attention back toward them without quite understanding why. That is not a personality type you are born with. It is something built, deliberately, through choices most people never think to make. And by the time this video reaches its final words, you will understand exactly what those choices are and why they alter everything about the way the world responds to you. Let us begin with the version of power most people were handed growing up. The loudest voice wins. The fastest reply signals intelligence. The person who can argue longest, hit hardest with words, and never back down from a confrontation earns their place at the top. That model is not just incomplete, it is actively destructive to anyone who follows it. Because what it creates is not a powerful person, it creates an exhausted one. Someone running on anxiety dressed up as confidence, someone who cannot afford a single moment of silence because silence feels like losing. Watch carefully the next time a heated exchange unfolds in front of you. Notice the person who speaks the most. They interrupt, repeat themselves, escalate their tone as if volume alone will tip the balance in their favor. And with every additional word, every unnecessary justification, they are quietly telegraphing something they do not mean to reveal, which is that they are afraid. Fear is the engine behind most over-communication, not strength. The need to explain everything, to correct every misunderstanding, to respond to every provocation, to make sure everyone in the room knows exactly where you stand. That need is rooted in insecurity, not in power. Carl Jung spent his life studying the architecture of the human mind, and one of his most precise observations was that what we refuse to face in ourselves ends up governing us from the inside. This is why reactive people keep reacting. It is not their circumstances driving them, it is the unresolved fear beneath the surface. Fear of being dismissed, fear of being misread, fear of losing ground they are not even certain they ever held. Now shift your attention to the quiet ones, not the shy ones, not the withdrawn ones, not the people who stay silent because they have nothing to offer, but the ones who are clearly present, clearly aware, and simply choosing not to participate in every wave of noise that passes through. Something separates them from everyone else, and it goes deeper than personality. They have stopped needing permission from their environment to feel settled. When someone challenges them, they do not rush to meet the challenge with equal force. When someone criticizes them, they do not immediately reach for a defense. They take the information in, they assess it on their own terms, and they respond, if they choose to respond at all, from a place of deliberate choice rather than reflex. That gap, the one between what happens to you and how you choose to engage with it, is where genuine authority lives. Most people never find it because they move too fast to notice it exists. Reacting is biological, a survival mechanism built for threats that no longer apply to most of the situations that trigger it. Your nervous system cannot always distinguish between a physical danger and a pointed comment in a meeting. Both can produce the same internal alarm, and both can push you into a response you have not actually chosen. The work is learning to catch that alarm before it speaks for you. Because once you do, once you develop even a modest ability to pause between stimulus and response, your behavior stops being predictable. And an unpredictable person, in the best sense of that word, is someone others cannot easily manipulate, dismiss, or underestimate. There is a quiet discomfort that spreads through a room when someone refuses to be rattled. People expect escalation, they expect defense, they expect to see some crack in the surface. When none of those appear, they do not know what to do with you.
That uncertainty, held without aggression or arrogance, generates something surprising, which is a kind of involuntary respect. The mind attributes depth to what it cannot easily read. When your reactions are not on display, people naturally assume there is more happening beneath the surface than they are being shown, and they are usually right. This channel exists for exactly this kind of conversation, the deep work of understanding yourself and building the inner structure that changes how you move through the world. If this is landing somewhere meaningful for you, take 5 seconds right now and subscribe. Every week there is content here built around psychological depth, self-mastery, and the kind of clarity that most people spend years looking for without knowing where to search. Subscribing costs nothing, but what compounds from staying close to this material can change a great deal. Now back to the architecture of the calm person, because there is something important that needs to be addressed directly. Calm is not a performance. Plenty of people have tried to manufacture it, deciding one morning that they will simply speak less and move more slowly and project an air of unshakable composure. That approach collapses quickly because it has no foundation. Real composure is not a surface behavior. It is the external result of something built on the inside, an organized mind, an honest relationship with your own emotions, and a value system clear enough that outside opinions stop feeling like threats. Until that foundation exists, silence is just suppression wearing a disguise. And suppressed emotion tends to surface at exactly the wrong moments with exactly the wrong intensity. The actual work, the kind that produces lasting change, involves sitting with discomfort instead of reacting to it. It involves asking yourself when the impulse to defend or explain or retaliate rises, whether that impulse is serving you or simply releasing pressure. 9 times out of 10, it is only releasing pressure. The explanation you felt compelled to give, the argument you could not let go of, the justification no one asked for, none of those moved you forward. They just made you feel temporarily less anxious by externalizing something that needed to be processed internally. Emotional maturity is the ability to feel something fully without immediately broadcasting it. It means tolerating the internal pressure of an unspoken response long enough to decide whether that response actually serves you. Most people cannot hold that pressure for more than a few seconds before something breaks and the words come out, often words they will quietly regret within the hour. Building that tolerance is unglamorous work, but it is among the most consequential investments you can make in yourself. It is one of the rarest qualities in modern life, and the scarcity of it makes it disproportionately valuable.
In a world saturated with instant reactions, with comment sections and immediate replies, and the social expectation of constant responsiveness, the person who has genuinely mastered their own responses stands out in a way that is almost difficult to articulate. You notice them because something about their presence feels different from most people you encounter. They are not performing calm. They are not performing strength. They are simply not performing at all. And that absence of performance is the most convincing demonstration of confidence that exists. Consider what changes practically when you stop living in reaction. Your attention expands. When you are not spending cognitive energy on defending, justifying, or processing social anxiety in real time, you begin actually seeing what is in front of you. Patterns become visible that you previously walked right through. Motivations become legible that used to confuse you. Conversations become informative rather than threatening because you're genuinely listening rather than preparing your next move while the other person is still talking. Information gathered quietly over time from a position of genuine observation accumulates into a kind of understanding that cannot be rushed or faked. The person who consistently listens more than they speak leaves every room knowing something they did not know when they entered. Multiply that across months and years, and the gap in awareness between them and the reactive person around them becomes profound. It also changes the weight of your words.
When someone speaks rarely but with precision, the room responds differently than it does to someone who fills every silence. Scarcity creates value in language just as it does everywhere else. The person who has an opinion on everything trains the people around them to filter, to discount, to wait for something that actually matters. The person who speaks only when they have something worth saying trains those same people to pay close attention when that moment arrives. Your words, used economically, become instruments rather than background noise. They land differently because the people hearing them have been conditioned, quietly and over time, to treat them as significant. None of this requires you to become distant or cold or withholding in ways that damage your relationships. The goal is not detachment, it is discernment. Knowing when your voice adds something real versus when it is simply filling a silence you have not yet learned to be comfortable sitting inside. Because silence is uncomfortable for most people, deeply so, and the discomfort tends to get interpreted as a problem that needs solving immediately. It rarely does. Most silences, if left alone, either resolve naturally or reveal something worth knowing. The urge to rush past them is almost always about the person who cannot tolerate them, not about the situation requiring intervention. Learning to stay present inside silence without anxiety, without the compulsion to fill it, is one of the more underestimated forms of social strength available to you. 3 practical shifts carry almost everything else. Slowing your response time, not as a tactic, but as a genuine practice of reflection before output, changes the quality of almost every interaction you have. Reducing the explanations you offer uninvited clears enormous amounts of energy and stops telegraphing insecurity to everyone paying attention. Loosening your dependence on external validation, on approval, on being understood and appreciated in the moment, builds a self-sufficiency that no criticism can easily dismantle. These are not dramatic transformations. They are small, daily, almost invisible decisions that accumulate across time into something the people around you will eventually notice and struggle to name. Because that is how real change works. Not in announcements, not in performances, not in the loud declaration that you are different now, but in the quiet, consistent choices that no one else sees, made in moments when the easier option would have been to react, to explain, to seek reassurance, and you chose differently instead. The world is genuinely louder than it has ever been. Every platform, every feed, every notification is designed to pull your attention outward, to keep you reactive, to make sure you are always responding to something rather than directing your own focus with intention. In that environment, a person who has learned to be still, genuinely still, holds a kind of advantage that is difficult to overstate. Not because stillness is fashionable, but because it is increasingly rare, and rarity, as always, commands attention without asking for it. Build the interior before reaching for the exterior. Steady the ground beneath you before attempting to move the ground beneath others. And understand that the quieter you become inside, the more clearly you will see what is actually happening around you, which is the beginning of every real advantage worth having. Because the person who has nothing to prove stops needing to prove it constantly, and that quality, more than any argument, any achievement, or any display of force, is what the world actually ends up respecting. Real authority does not announce itself. It simply exists, and in existing, it changes everything around it without saying a word.